everybody. This is Churning the Butter Podcast with the very next episode. I am your host as always, Mr. V8, here with my friends, the Ice Cream Man, otherwise known as Joe from the Fourth Flow, in your fridge like never before.
Yep, eating all your cheese.
Man, it ain't been, and you know it ain't 3 because it's something like never been 4. So,
what's up? How are we doing today?
we are doing exquisite and we are doing great. So today we have a lot of stuff to talk about on the podcast that's been going on.
I've been itching for it, man. I'm gonna let you know, sitting on the edge of my seat, been itching for this.
Yeah, we've been ready, willing, and able, and we know we're a little inconsistent with the time period, so we might say a few things that possibly have already happened, or might go we go over something, but it's our opinions, and it's our spectacular vernacular and awesome insights is why you come here, so that's what we're gonna give to you, even if it is a little bit behind in the timelines. So, without further ado, one of the topics we're gonna talk about today is the FGC, and the starting topic I'd like to talk about is, well, since you got your hands all warmed up, what is it? What you want to say? What you got? What you can't wait to get out?
All right, guys. All right. So, I'm on the Kool-Aid. I'm drinking it. I'm on the thing.
Wait, what?
I've done it. They've got me, not again, but
Yes.
They've got me again.
Yes.
I'm buying the Marvel. Goddamn you, Capcom.
Versus Capcom. If I have said I was interested then, just like I'm interested now, because I am a fan. And even when your team is down and your team is low, you stick with your team because you know that's the one you want to see succeed. And I, like I said in the very first episode, I'm a Capcom fan, and it ain't always good in Capcom hood. But
I boo Capcom, boo them.
Yep.
But they've done it again. I've watched these videos and I've seen the stuff, and I want to do it too. I want to play it. I want to try it. I already have my team, my first team that I want to play, and I have the second team that I'm most likely going to play. But that's neither here nor there. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. We're gonna do this Capcom. Also, there will be an unboxing video.
Oh yes. Oh, don't you forget. So live on the B&B YouTube page, Bread and Butter with a big old capital N is where you can find us. And we are going to do an unboxing of the official, yet expensive, the deluxe super ultimate X spectacular box, the one that comes with the statues and the Infinity Stones and all the swag costumes and every little bit of awesome get that you can get. I call those the hot boxes. You can get them for a variety of games. But we are going to do an unboxing of that hot box. You will see my beautiful face, Mr. Gourmand, who you may know from the YouTube page videos.
You get to see me as well.
You get to see the Ice Cream Man and all of his custard glory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that will happen, and we're gonna do it as close to the date of release as is physically possible. And it's not gonna be midnight, but will be as soon as our lives all coalesce and the stars align, and we can all get in the same place at the same time. And we're gonna do that. So with that being said, we're going to talk about one thing because we did mention it before. Chun-Li's face got fixed. Since we've last spoke on this, Chun-Li's face was fixed.
My girl went to the spa. She went and, got the hookup. She got the makeup right. Someone, maybe she put on the makeup. It was in the dark that day or something like that, but she went and got her face right.
Yeah, and they actually visually did a lot of the characters. Her eyebrows, oh my God, they got fixed. I mean, a lot of the characters, they look better. And Cap is roughly the same. He hasn't gone too changed, but he did get fixed. He got fixed. And how about these how about this black Spider-Man suit? Who's excited for that? That gets me hype, seeing the black Spider-Man outfit. At least we got it, even if it's just a color for Spider-Man, because there's gonna be at least 3 or 4 colors for each character.
I'm gonna play it.
He gonna play it.
I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna switch back and forth from classic red and blue and the black and white.
Also, you never said who your team was, if I don't recall.
I'm not saying it.
Why not?
Because I don't want to jinx it.
Why is it a jinx?
Well, I'm just saying it's a team I want to play, and if I have a sneaky suspicion if I say it, it's not going to work.
Oh well, I'm just gonna tell you, I'm gonna play Captain America and possibly either Ryu or the Hulk. and or maybe Hager. Like one of those three alternates. But it's
I'll
gonna be
tell you
Captain America and somebody. I'm gonna let you know. It's
I'll
probably
tell you the team I might end up playing. I might actually end up playing freaking Nemesis and like Ghost Rider.
those are good characters. I know I'm gonna play Ryu. I know I'm gonna play Mike Hagar. I know I'm gonna play the Hulk, and I'm definitely gonna play Captain America. So you might see a lot of Captain America plus the Hulk. I know in MVC3 I played a lot of Arthur. I'm gonna hang him up. I'm not gonna go back into that sort of thing, but no, it's gonna be Captain America and secondary character to be named later. It's probably gonna be Ryu for the very first time I touched the game. So I want to see how good Ryu was. He was actually a character I played in Marvel 3. I played a lot of Ryu.
You know, I'm calling it now. I think the character who's going to be super slept on right away, and then he's going to do very well later on. I think Frank West is going to be the character that people are going to be slept on right away, but the people who know are going to be playing him, and they're going to do very well with the character.
You know, the character I think is going to be slept on in that game, who I think is really, really good, and I think nobody's going to take him to the full potential he could do, is Chris. I think a lot of people are going to I don't think he's going to be extremely popular. You'll get your few people who actually play the game, because when you looked at Marvel 3, right, there was people who played Chris and they did really well. But I think, Chris is going to be the character that, I might give him a try, but he's going to be the character that, you'll see people play him, but he won't be, the savvy pick. He'll be kind of the middle-of-the-road pick, but I don't think he's going to be as popular, but I think he's going to be ridiculous. I've seen some of the things you can do with the guy. I think he's going to be ridiculous. Him and also another, but my sleeper character, I think, is going to be Rocket Raccoon. I think a lot of people, may not pick him at first, but as the game progresses, you will see a lot of people go with Rocket Raccoon. Also, another thing to mention is, since we've talked last, the Soul Gem has come out. This is one of those 6 gems, and it's the 6th and final gem. It's extremely important. So what it does in the game is it has this energy whip attack that when it hits the opponent, it steals a bit of their health and gives it to you, a drain effect. Also, when it does its big overarching mechanic, what it does is it literally revives the second character if they are dead and has both of them on the screen for a period of time, very similar to Marvel vs. Capcom 1. And that can go both ways. But how I feel about that is I don't feel it's overpowered. Because I think if you can kind of see that coming from a mile away that they're going to activate said ability, you might be able to get what's called a happy birthday, which is comboing both characters at the same time. I think you have to be very cognizant of that. If you do revive a character with that, they're not giving full health. They have 20, 25-ish percent health. I think one good solid combo, if you do a solid tag combo and knock both characters, you can definitely finish them off. So, Mr. Joe, how do you feel about that gem and those mechanics that I've just mentioned?
Alright, so lifesteal is always very, very dangerous in fighting games. I'm of the opinion that lifesteal is actually probably one of the most dangerous mechanics in a fighting game, no matter how you get it, because it's literally not only just a 1-for-1 trade, it's a 2-for-1 trade. So you're not only expanding your own lifeline, but decreasing theirs at the same time. And even if it's just a little bit, I've always found that in these fighting games, any amount of that can be very, very deadly. Also, when it comes down to the revival, I think the revival's actually not as powerful as a lot of people think, unless their team is actually extremely well built. And what I mean by that is there's going to be, even though they're trying to get away from it, there's going to be characters who are going to be better on the back end than the front end. And certain characters are probably going to need to rely on having a good back end character. So I could see a character who might have trouble, getting across the screen, like something like a Hagar, might actually have may struggle more if his secondary gets tagged out, which allows him to, kind of get in there and get safe pressure and get across the screen.
So you're saying Hagar would work better as a secondary character, not the frontline guy?
No, I think he might work great as the frontline guy, but I think if someone, does Arrhenius tag or something like that, and his secondary gets blown up, he might actually really benefit more from the revival of his secondary character than just a random team. Because he may need that secondary guy more so than some more well-rounded character.
You don't want to get stuck with just Hagar by himself.
Yeah, because that 2-for-1 is... Or like some characters I have a much more faith in being able to kill and successfully get two characters once one of them dies, and that may be a problem for certain characters. Like I was assume Hagar, if he's dealing with a like maybe a heavy zoning team, he may really need that second character in order to have something else he can put out there.
You know what I think would be a really good teammate for Hagar that I don't think people would think of? This character I'm really interested in is Thor. So I think Thor, with his flight ability and his heavy damage, but yet still being like a heavy command grab character, might be a really good choice for him as a teammate. Because they both have a lot of health. So if you use, say, the Soul Stone, they're like you have these characters that are very more heavy and they have a lot of health. And plus with the Soul Stone and the lifesteal mechanic, because of it's a whip and it goes pretty far on the screen, stealing like health with a character that already has high health as it is very daunting for your opponent, because like you already have over so much health, and then gaining it back and then making them struggle to do that all over again is kind of a heavy thing. So I think with Thor's like flight mechanic, that's kind of like what my friend's talking about, where like because you have characters like Ultron, who can fly around, or like Carol Danvers, Miss Marvel, who can fly around, Captain Marvel, Jeddah character, which we'll talk about in a second, who can like fly around. Mike really can't get up there and get him, but a character has flight and a command grab and can do all these things, but not be so different that you won't feel like you're playing a grappler. Like Thor would be an example, or say like maybe like Arthur would be a really good, because he can like win those zoning matchups. He can like counter zone, and he can like switch. Like you really like. I think in this game it benefits you to have like two characters that are very, not necessarily the polar opposites, but have different sets of options, so you can switch in and out for what you want to do. But at the same time, kind of be in a similar shell. For instance, like two grapplers is really good. Like for instance, the Hulk and Thor would make it a really good team. This was something I was thinking of playing, because like I said, Thor can do a lot of the things the Hulk can't, and the Hulk can just tack on a lot of extra damage. So, and one final note about the gems.
Well, I want to say one more thing about the gem, because we were talking about that doubles mechanic.
Yeah.
And that doubles mechanic is entirely something.
Okay.
I believe that this mechanic is going to make and break team. It's going to be what I call the tournament standard for a lot of people. There's going to be there's going to be a lot of people who are going to play this, and they're going to build their entire team around it. Because what it's going to allow you to do is have these long, even longer, more ridiculous combos available, and people are going to be specialists in specifically this. There's going to be like team matchups, and teams are built specifically to have ridiculously long combos, and like I'm expecting this to be very similar to like a custom combo system, where like you might pick characters who are maybe subpar on the tier list, but they work very well together with this specific affinity stone, and that might be an entire team, and it might get them a lot of success.
An example of a character that might illustrate what my friend is talking about could be like Arthur. Again, I mentioned Arthur. Like he could lock them down with like a projectile, and because you have both characters, you can, whilst on the other side, set them up for say like a command grab, or possibly something like that. Actually, the gem, I disagree with my friend about the tournament standard. I think different people will play different gems, and I think that those gems will work out better for different characters. For instance, you might think, a character like the Hulk and possibly like, Hagar and these bigger characters, which I'm more accustomed to playing, or like Captain America and Ryu, which are these more smoother kind of middle-of-the-road characters who kind of do it all, might benefit from something like that. But imagine having a guy like the Hulk with Time Stone, where you do actually get a custom combo. So imagine all these weird things, and then imagine your team being built so that you can not only do this custom combo and do like heavy punch over and over and over again, and then have your teammate on the other side who can also do that combo too. So like, as much as I actually think that this will probably be the most popular gem in a lot of the time, for a lot of people, like they'll see the mechanics and instantly assume or think, okay, I'm just going to pick this right away because this is something I just want, and I'm going to pick it right away because it looks better than everything else. But I think from, my personally looking these videos over, watching all these people play these gems, there's going to be some other ones that are actually not only as good, but sometimes in certain cases maybe better.
Oh, I'm not saying that this will be the one that everyone will pick. What I mean by tournament standard, what I mean by you'll actually have a team that when you see it at the tournament, you're going to see, oh, he picked these two characters together. Oh, he's obviously picking that gem. Like it's going to have a bunch of pre-built shit together.
So like there'll be sets. Like these two characters
with this
9 times out of 10 give you this gem.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be one of this is like certain gems I think are more freeform, where it benefits more different combination of characters. Where I think this specific gem where you're using two characters together is you're going to see when you see someone pick this gem, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what two characters they're probably going to pick. Like there's going to be like I think maybe like 4 or 5 teams that are maybe in the entire game that are going to really like this gem, and then the other people aren't going to really use it that much. That's what I meant by tournament standard. I might have just to clarify what I meant by that.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking more of a saying like this one's just going to be instantly popular. But I actually do think like when people are just going to look at that gem and just think it's the best one because of like the overarching ability of bringing your character back into the match. But I also think that,
I also think that, and this is really interesting. This is a personal thing for me, but I think your gem choice is going to is going to be like to be the personality choice.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to reveal a lot about what people think and what people what they value in this game.
Okay.
So like for example, if you see someone pick the space gem,
right,
you know that this guy is going to be the 50-50 fucking scumbag.
Okay.
Like he's going to put you in this box, and he did 100 hours of lab time on this team to get you the scummiest cross-ups.
I can easily see like a Strider.
Yeah, like you're going to see Strider, you're going to see 50-50s, you're going to see crossovers, you're going to see left-right mix-ups, up-down. Like that guy, like if you see that gym, expect lab monster. Because that's what that's going to be.
But think about this though, because what I like about a lot of these gems is you can put a twist on it, right? And conceptually, think about this though. Not only you might not get a 50-50 mix-up, but think of I'm going to go back to these big bodies, this is what I like to do. Think of a guy with a nice command grab. Think of now you can't get away.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't run away. So like there's all these different things, that you can do that like with these various gems in different ways that like really, but it says something about you as a personality wise. So speaking on that, what I'm going to do is before we end this discussion on the gems is I'm going to say what your favorite gem is why. Your number one, the one you think you're going to try to pick and why. And I'm going to have my friend go first.
Okay, so I'm immediately going to pick the space gem. I'm eventually probably going to pick the speed jump.
No. What's your favorite one?
I don't have a favorite.
Oh, you don't have a favorite?
I don't have a favorite.
I have one favorite, and I'm going to tell you what it is and why.
Okay.
My one favorite, and I think it's going to be the sleeper gem. I think very few people are going to understand just how good this is until you see it, is going to be the power gem. I think that is the least recognized one. I think people are sleeping on it. I don't think they believe it's very good. Comparatives to say the reality stone or the other stones, because the other ones are a little more obvious in what they do. So with the power stone is its little V skill, its skill like used in the match is it gives you like this attack that hits the opponent and is very hard hitting and it bounces them off the wall and it leads to combos that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do with certain characters, and it gives you another really hard hitting high priority option. That reminds me of a mechanic in another game called Guilty Gear. It reminds me of Dusk, if you know what that is. That's very similar to like that. That's like having the Dusk button. Because I've actually sat and looked at all these gems because I know I'm going to be playing this game, and I thought about it. So that reminds me of like Dusk. And if you ever played that game, you know that Dusk is vital to certain characters doing well. So I think it's very similar to like having an extra Dusk button and then doing that. And then just having more and then people say where it's kind of lackluster is this big mechanic where it's just like, well, you get this time where you do like double damage and you do this and that. Imagine, like I keep going back to these big bodies, but that's my play style in these games. Imagine a guy like the Hulk with double damage, or Thor, or getting command grab a Hagar with 2 times damage. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, or getting hit with a level 3 from say like Thor with double the damage. Like, that's just ain't gonna end the match. Now imagine your opponent does this. They got that fancy soul gem, and they're gonna I'm gonna bring back my guy. And as soon as both of their guys on the same side, you go, you know what? How about I use this power gem button and knock both of you guys into the wall? And then what say you then? See, and there's a lot of things like that. Also, the reality gem.
I'm calling the reality gem. I'm calling the lame gem from now on.
Oh yeah, that's the lame stone. That's the lame stone. But you know what I like about that? That gives characters that doesn't have a fireball. Like, imagine, like, I keep bringing them back. The Hulk. Imagine him with a fireball. Like, and the reason I'm bringing back the Hulk is I'm trying to present all these different situations and the pros and cons of each gem on the same character, as in to say all of them have pros and cons. It's very, and that's one of my favorite things about this game. That is the personality it really brings out of the person. Like, imagine a guy like Captain America with a fireball that tracks you. And he can't fly, right? So he can that's a way for him to try to jump up in the air and get you. That's not using, on top of using his shield. Imagine those types of things. Imagine guys like.
I said, but you do also have to take into account. I said, now it was like, well, you can bounce that back. Well, if you know people are going to try to push block it, a character who actually has normal projectiles can try messing up your push block by shooting more projectiles.
Yeah, now you have to block 2 things on one scenario. And what you can do then is you can not only do that, but you can push it back on them again. And you can have this back and forth ping pong type of deal. These gyms are so good in the way that they've been designed. I really honestly believe.
I think this is actually probably one of the stronger design choices that they've had in recently in these games.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, expect that they were going to think them out this well. Like, I think, I thought they were going to be pretty tacked on, and they seem to be pretty, well-rounded. They seem to, offer a lot to a lot of different characters without, being too overpowered or being too underwhelming. And, like, they seem to be just interesting things. Like, the other thing the speed gem does besides custom combos...
He's talking about the time gem. Is the speed gem.
I call it the speed gem, but it is the time gem. It gives you a dash, and people think that's not important.
Not just any dash. It can give you an air dash or a ground dash, and it goes through the opponent to get them on the other side. That sets up a lot of tag-in mix-ups. Also, what that does, not only does it get, like, say, your big characters close in, and gets it so that the big characters who can close in, like the Hulk or Hagar or Thor, or Nemesis, can get in on the guy through the volley of projectiles at the opponent. But it also makes it so a character like Arthur or Hawkeye can get away. So you see the twofold scenario here.
Also, people they say, you know what you never expect?
What?
You never expect the left-right mix-up from the Hulk.
No, stuff like that. Like, in that thing, right? Like, it gives the Hulk a left-right mix-up. And just like I said before, when you get to custom combo, just imagine him doing, like, heavy punch repeatedly. Bang, 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 bang. How much damage that could possibly do to somebody. Like, the power gem, like I said, presented that dust mechanic. A lot of people didn't think of that. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, ooh, gives me a dusk button. What can I do with that? Also, like, I just like the idea of doing more damage because I'm a brute barbarian type where I just wants to do gobs in a single go, right? Like, I love, like, command grabs and, like, Zangief level 3 and all this cool stuff.
You like that big Soviet damage.
Yeah, I want that Soviet damage, the real Soviet damage. I want to be up there saluting the sickle and the what's the name? I'm a proud American, but I want to see that boy saluting the flag. Serve the flag. No, I want that damage. No, I want Putin to show up on a horse and be like, "Damn, Zangief." No, I want the pale rider, bro. No, that gets my juices going. You know what I'm saying? And I know my friend is quite the opposite, which we find it fun. He gets his juices going when he tanks a move, like when the opponent tries to hit him, and then he like counters. He does like a counter. That I know that gets his juices going 100%.
I like that, and I'm not gonna lie. I like the thing where I like to confuse my opponent. I like to do the left when I go right. I like to go right when I go left.
Yeah, he definitely likes to zig when you thought he was gonna zag.
And I like having as many things on the screen as possible. so everyone can be frustrated and not know where to block.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I don't even know where to block.
Yeah, no, he likes bullet hell. But, like, the thing I've seen him get off, and the reason I say this personally is the thing I've seen him get off the most on was, like, they have a character that's going to be in Tekken, actually, that we're going to talk about in a minute. And it's a SNK character. It's called Geese Howard.
Mm-hmm.
And I know my friend loves that character
Mhm.
as much as I do. I'm very high. But when that dude does that counter,
Oh, man.
when he hits you with the predictable,
Oh, man.
I know, right?
Oh,
you get the goose
I
pimples.
get goose pimply all over.
Oh, man. And I dig that, too. It gets my juices flowing, but I know, I've never seen, like, I know my friend, that's how he likes to play, which is bullet hell, but I know the things that get his goose pimples going is when he counters that dude, and he's just like, I skilled your ass. Ooh, bingo, right? I know that gets him all over, so yeah. So that's all I'm going to say about that. We're going to move on a little bit to another topic, and it's a little more of a serious topic. That was more of a fun topic, but the topic is, Tekken 7 sells more units in 2 months than Street Fighter 5 did in an entire year.
So, the thing is, when you buy Tekken, if you look on the back of the box, it says two things.
Right?
It says the little tagline, which is, fights are better when they're personal, right? But it also says another thing. You know what else it says on the back of the box, Fred?
What does it say?
It says Tekken, world's #1 highest selling fighting game. And once again, Tekken, world's #1 highest selling fighting game.
Also brought to you by Namco, to people who know how to get it right. And what I mean by getting it right is their DLC choices that they've made for Tekken 7, being Akuma from Street Fighter 5.
Exquisite.
And being Geese Howard from King of Fighters series. Exquisite, just like my friend said. The turn of phrase for me that I like to use. Exquisite. I was thoroughly impressed. It was possibly, for me, the most hypest trailer at EVO, this past EVO, was when Geese Howard showed up and he told all those Tekken characters that they was predictable.
Predictable.
Like, we just got done. Like, ooh, I shed a tear. I had to change my underwear. Like, it was legit. Like, I had some juicy emotions, man. I almost cried. Like, I shed a tear because I was like, ooh, I know. Ooh.
You know what's the funny thing, though? The weirdest thing I have to say about these sales figures, right?
Because that's what we're talking about.
I was looking at it. It's like, man, they didn't have nearly as much pomp and circumstance behind this game.
No.
They didn't. They just said, hey, Akuma's in it.
Not only that, though, what turned out to be their biggest, I think the biggest difference, and there's two things, is one, when the games first came out, they were both sold at $60. That was the price point for the original game. Now, Tekken 7, if you look at it, it's just a better game. It's just a better single-person experience. They had an exquisite story mode. They had arcade mode. It was there for you. They had all the things that you would expect from a
treasure mode.
Yeah, all the Tekken classic treasure modes. They had versus gameplay.
Now they have bowling, by the way.
Yeah, they added bowling. There's a lot of videos online for that. It's very fun. I guess Akuma loves bowling, I guess, if you look around the internet. So, a lot of the stuff that you can find, I mean, and the bowling was an extra. It didn't come out right when the game came out, but it was something they added.
But it was free.
Yes, it was free. Not only was it free, it's nostalgia. Tekken Bowling was in the original Tekken Tag Tournament 1. I'm a Tekken player. I know this for a fact. It's a nostalgia trip. And you know what? That wasn't lost on anybody. And you know what? The best part about this Tekken 7 to me was the things you expected from a Tekken 7 from a Tekken home console game were all met. It didn't regress in any kind of way.
There were a couple characters that people are still sad that aren't there, like Lei.
Yeah.
But they've hit most of the chords. They've hit most of the characters. People wanted to see the usual classics. There's a couple that are missing, but they have they do have new exciting characters. They have Akuma, which is, I would say everyone should steal that swag. Don't when you do the crossover, don't get their hero. No one wants to see their hero. Get their villain.
Ooh.
That's who you want to.
Ooh, that's a design choice.
That's the DLC you really want.
Yeah, that's a bold strategy, Cotton, but I think it works out. But so, since 2015 of March, Tekken 7 was a playable game. Now, it was only playable on arcades at that time, but the game didn't release on consoles and PC until June 2nd of 2017. It's been a little over 2 months since the game a little over 2 months since the game started, was available to people, and it was selling very well. It was confirmed by Bandai Namco that over 1.66 million units were sold worldwide. Street Fighter V had been out for about a year and a half, and it just had at that time reached 1.7 million units. This was reported by, my favorite website, Event Hubs, and some other, fine places like the Forbes list and things like that. You can check this out. Now, what the sneaky part about this is, as Capcom had missed its goal of reaching 2 million units by the end of 2016 when the game first released, but it caught up after. And by catching up, I mean Street Fighter caught up after they dropped the price point of $60 to $20. You were able to get Street Fighter V for $20. Now, after selling all those units, minus that $40, Namco never dropped their price on it, as far as I know.
Now, they have not dropped their price. They have no reason to. No, here's another thing you do have to take into account. And maybe this is, they are paying for this exclusivity. Because I could buy Tekken on any console.
Yeah.
Including PC.
Yeah.
I could buy it for the Xbox if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I didn't, but
yeah.
It was available. So, you really do, you will pay for, your exclusivity. Now, granted, I don't think that's the only thing that's making up these numbers.
No.
There's just no way, because PS4 is outselling Xbox, so let's not pretend like they didn't have the bigger audience at the PS4 level. But you are cutting off some sales there. I think the thing was, Tekken didn't have any initial bad press when it came out.
Yeah.
It said, now, I think the other reason why it didn't have a lot of bad press is, and we both, I think, griped a little bit on the fact that it had been playable for all this time, and, before release, and a lot of people from a lot of different countries got to play it before we did.
Yeah.
And I still, not happy about that.
No.
I said, but a lot of the standard press didn't know anything about that. Nor did they really care.
No.
So, that affects the hardcore, but it doesn't affect the casual market.
No, it does not. And to be honest, I think that time was I think that time was well spent by Namco. That is, to make sure, after seeing what happened in Street Fighter V, and I know they probably looked around, because the thing I like about Namco, as much as people could talk about a Japanese company and their thing, they do kind of peek their head out of their weeds and look around and see what the world looks like. They're very global and they're aware. Like, if you remember, Bandai Namco, they helped make, if not made, Mario Kart 8. That's a game that they made. That's extremely different from Tekken. Yet, they were wise enough to look around the world and see, okay, these are fighting games. This is what a fighting game looks like. These are the popular fighting games. This is what our competitors look like. They're aware. They're self-aware of what the rest of the world is doing.
Yeah, I think this is very important, because I think Namco isn't developing like a Japanese company.
No.
They're developing like a company where they're trying to make the best product when they release it every single time.
And global. They're a global company. They really are. I think they produce like a global company.
Mm-hmm.
I think they act like a global company. They work with Capcom. Capcom flat out admitted, and this was a thing also you can find on Event Hubs, Capcom flat out admitted that they didn't know what to do anymore with their netcode. As far as they weren't sure how to improve it. They hit the wall creatively on what they can do to make the netcode better. They went to Namco, and they used Namco as like, look, we're going to these guys to look for the answers. We're bringing in people who we're admitting by bringing them in can help us. They know more than we do at this particular situation. They're going to help us. We're going to work closely with them to improve this thing throughout the board, right? Across the board. Like, every fighting game is going to have better netcode because of us. We're going to team together to do it. But that's something that Capcom had to, kind of relent on and say, okay, we don't have the answer, but we know who does, and we're going to seek that out. And I think it was one of the few good press things that Capcom could actually do. Because a lot of people have actually kind of, felt sour with Capcom, us included, for a few reasons. And that was a complaint for Street Fighter V, that the netcode was not very accessible to everybody and very usable, and it didn't work properly when the game first came out and so forth. But by going to Namco, which is a company in the good graces of people, and saying, see, look, we're calling in help, and we're admitting our failings, and we're calling in, experts, that says a lot. And for me, it was a positive thing to see, because we haven't had a lot of the same problems with Namco games, as far as, the online aspect. But I think the reason for that is because they didn't try to be as ambitious as Street Fighter V did by using like cross-play and the multi-platform, and that's the CFN. The CFN is what did them in. But like when you have good press with the people like Namco does, and you're a Capcom who has bad press, and you relent and you go to those people, I think it does something for your audience.
It's also another thing is they tried, like Capcom still has this aura of we're trying to get over.
Yeah.
That we're trying to make this money outside of then what's normal or what's useful to us, or what's useful for the customer. So the problem is Namco doesn't have that issue. Namco doesn't have that reputation. They have a reputation of putting out quality games,
right?
Whether directly underneath their banner or underneath their banner, they have that as something they can hang their hats on. Now certain games they put out, even if it wasn't extremely popular, they still, did it. Like, for example, most people may not even remember this game, but PlayStation All-Stars, which was, like, supposed to be PlayStation's response to, like, Smash Brothers.
Right.
They produced that game, too. It was a fine game. It's just no one was kind of asking for that type of game out there.
Nor did it really do very well in the after, they tried to make it esports and go to Smash route, but it just flopped.
And like I think just people weren't, attached to those characters and attached to that game style. Like, truth be told, Smash, the popularity of that is kind of a fluke.
It's
like,
not a fighting game, but that's my opinion.
I said, like, you're not going to be able to recreate that.
No.
And I've seen tons of people try to recreate it, but I don't think that's something that exists outside of the Nintendo figureheads.
No,
and,
it's an
like,
extremely niche game.
Yeah, like it's not something you can have without that brand recognizability, because that's what brings a lot of people to the plate, and then they may stay for the hardcore competition once they discover it exists, and they're done beating their friends in this game. But something like PlayStation All Stars would have to sell people on these characters, and people never really thought of Big Daddy and Dante and Ratchet as
and like
being
Power Rapper, let's not forget,
like as being connected in any way, anyhow. And then you kind of try to put them all together and say, hey, look at us, we're all they're all PlayStation characters, just like all these other guys are Nintendo characters, but like they don't even. There's nothing similar to it.
But I will interject and say that one of the failings of that game, and you might not think of it as a big failing, but you really have to look at the crowd responses. Crash Bandicoot was not in that game, and people felt that was a big deal, and it really didn't help that game when it was early. Like that may not seem like the nail in the coffin for a lot of people. Like, oh well, it's missing one guy. Well, no. People love Crash Bandicoot so gosh darn much that when they just recently put out this remake of Crash Bandicoot, it went gangbusters.
Right, and I have my opinion of the fact that that game even released seems weird to me, but that's my opinion of Crash Bandicoot. I don't have that type of love for it. But I can understand why other people do have that type of love for it and have that nostalgia, because I grew up around them, and I have a couple of things that is funny and a couple of good memories, but that sold more than I expected.
Yeah.
But they did. If you look at the game itself and how it was released and how the net code worked and everything like that, they built a quality game. Now it may not have sold well, but Namco built a quality game on top of some stuff. I would say they probably made a better game than the parts that they were given. Like that wasn't a very great recipe for success. But they elevated that game far beyond where it should have been.
And speaking of Bandai Namco, I'm going to segue into something that is very important. The ArcSys people and the Bandai Namco people, while they're not the exact same thing, they do have a pretty good relationship. Like if you notice, Harada San, which is the guy who is basically the figurehead and the main creator for Tekken, he introduced the lady who is the main head person for Dragon Ball Z Fighters at EVO, so she could do her trailer, which at the time was Trunks. Now, those people are kind of in bed together, and that's great for them. Now, the reason I segue into this is because I personally, Roman, have to get into something. I have to say it, and this is my platform for my small moment of soapbox. And I'm going to bring him up again. Yes, the world heavyweight champion, undisputed in any country, especially in America. Maximilian Dude, the guy I said. Y'all have seen the videos now. He's the shill that y'all should have been talking about. And I want to say one last thing on shilling that just came up recently. So if you watch his videos, there was an event called Gamescom that happened in Germany. This is Germany's quite far from America, obviously. And you had to go there in order to get the latest test of Marvel Infinite and the latest, demo of Dragon Ball Z Fighters. Both of those demos were at that event, and it was kind of a big deal. Gamescom is kind of like the European Tokyo Game Show, for an example. It's a big deal for a lot of those people in that country. And they even had a tournament for Dragon Ball Z Fighters, and it was a big deal. A 64-man bracket. He got to go, he being Maximilian Dude, all he did was contact these people. He got to go to the Capcom USA offices and flew all the way to San Francisco just to play the Gamescom build. Nobody else got to do that, by the way. And using his awesome streaming, 4K equipment, got to put that game up on his personal YouTube channel. And yes, I will admit, since I said that, there has been other people, and it's got nothing to do with me, who also got to stream and put on YouTube, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and shout-outs to, the European Capcom scene for letting them do that. But it didn't stop there, right? You think, oh, well, he's just a Capcom thing, he just gets to go play, the Capcom games and advertise for that, because people, recognize his popularity and they're jumping on that bandwagon. He also got to go to the Bandai Namco Studios and get the fresh look at, Dragon Ball Z Fighters, the Gamescom build. Nobody else in America got that privilege as far as I know. Now, please put in the comments and send to the email Cobb Studios at gmail.com. Please let me know if I'm wrong on this. But as far as I know, he was the only American person who got to do that, other than the people who went to Gamescom, which is in Germany. But he got to avoid going to Germany in order to do this. And this is just on the fact that he
has
just
to be
asked.
the guy.
Yeah, I got
And
no problem with
he's the
somebody
guy.
being the guy. But see, here's my issue with this. People were using the word shill like it was a negative term. And they were associating it to people in the FGC. And I'll name drop two people that I like, and I'll use their nicknames, which is Yipes, who's a guy who's a very famous Marvel player, does a lot of commentary these days, and I'm a big fan of his. He brings the hype. Another guy named L.I. Joe, who, if you don't really know him, you may remember him from, I don't know if it was just the EVO before last, he made top 8. It was the first EVO for Street Fighter V. He made top 8, and he was the only American to do that, and it was a big deal. And they called these people shills. And they were saying these shilling things. They were bringing these guys up consistently like this was a negative term. I personally don't think shilling for somebody is a bad thing to do. If these companies choose you and they allow you to be the guy, that's great. But if we're going to use this in a negative term, why does this guy get excluded from that? Now, there may be reasons, but I mean, you can't call one guy the same thing that the other guy's doing and have it be negative just for one. It's got to be negative for everybody. Can we get a little consistency here? I don't think what Max is doing is a negative thing. I also don't think what those other people I mentioned were doing was a negative either, but I don't think they're the same thing. Max is the actual shill. He's what a shill looks like. He's the real shill. And those other guys were generally, like being Max and Joe, being Joe and Yipes, they were legitimately excited for the game that they wanted to play. They were excited for Marvel. They were excited for Dragon Ball. They were excited for these things. So let's not, let's not be, what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. Because no, that's not what that saying is. So if you're going to call somebody a shill, people, and I want to put an end to this whole shilling thing being a negative connotation. I want to put an end to that. That's why I'm saying this. If you're going to call someone a shill and it's going to be negative, you got to do that for everybody. So I've had enough of that. So I don't want to hear about shilling anymore from the internet. I know I'm going to, and I know I'm not going to get what I want. But I want that to end. Can we end calling people shills? Because that's the real shill, Mr. Max. and he's not. He used to be, recognized by the public as like the guy who was just so popular and so awesome that the developers had to get him. Now he's the guy that they know they have to get, but now they want to get him, and he's gone Hollywood. But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's just it. If there's nothing wrong with that for him, there's nothing wrong with that for anybody else. And what he's doing is what shilling is. So people, I don't want to hear nobody else talking negative about nobody else in the FGC for shilling. Because let me explain something. Without Street Fighter V and without people who actually shill for these games, we're not going to have the FGC luxury like we have it, people. If you don't like Street Fighter V, so bad, too bad, because that's the game that puts the food on the table for everybody else and all your favorite fighting games. It's not Street Fighter V to make it happen. That's the one that got on ESPN. That's the one that got, to TBS. That's the one that's doing it. So just because you don't like a certain game and you see people put up for it, so what? And the point is, fighting games are great, and shilling is what the FGC wants to be. I want to shill for Capcom. Let me do it. But no, I understand why I don't get to be that guy. And Max does get to be that guy. Good for him. But you can't. But what he's doing. But if what he's doing is negative, then people need to start acting accordingly, because that's not fair. It's not fair to anybody else. Now, would you like to comment on that, or would you like to just leave that as it is?
I've said all I have to say on this subject. There has to be a guy. He's the guy.
Get over it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
There's going to be a guy. There's going to be, and if it wasn't him, it'd be somebody else.
Yeah.
And they would be that guy, and then they would get that guy and fly him around.
Right.
It used to be Mike Ross. At one point in time it was Justin Wong. They've switched this around, but it's the same thing. Gutex has been this guy.
Right.
Harris at some points have been this guy.
Right.
They are the people you go and get. K-Brett has always wanted to be that guy.
No,
but he's too real to be that guy.
Right. He can't keep it straight.
So someone has to do it, and that's good for the scene.
It is good. It is good. Shilling is good. You people have to understand. Shilling is good. Stop treating that concept like it's negative, and stop saying that the people who are doing it are bad, because they're not. But if you're gonna call them, then call everybody. You know what I'm saying? Shilling is what we want, people. Am I wrong?
No, that's what we want.
That's what we want. That's what we need, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need these shills, and we're lucky. As much as I'm not a fan of Maximilian, we're lucky to have a guy like him who can keep it together and present us to the rest of the world in somewhat of a professional manner, and be friendly and inviting, and you could put him on your TV and in your home as the guy. And this is where I learned fighting games. Thank God it's him and not some scumbag like somebody else who doesn't really care and is only half-assing it, and that's all we got. We should be so lucky there's a guy like him who shills. But the thing is, yes, at the same token, he is the shill. That's what the shill is. Don't call these other guys shills because they're genuinely excited about a game. That's not fair.
So, now that we've
I've said my soapbox, and I apologize if that's not what you want to hear.
We've brought past that. I want to talk about some of these characters. We've had a couple of new things come out. Street Fighter V has had a new character, Manat.
Oh yeah.
She's been a very popular character. A lot of people think that she's going to be higher tier. I say she's probably going to be mid.
Yep.
She's a classic puppet character, and what a puppet character is, people, it's a character that can have a hitbox or have another item or possibly even a semi-character.
Okay.
Act independently from the main character and sometimes act simultaneously as the main character. And that is what she does. She is not a character for a lot of... She's not a very easy character. Maybe something like Abigail is a little bit easier, but she's a very good mechanical character.
Okay.
And she's offering a lot of technicalities to the games that a lot of people have said that they have missed. A lot of the hardcore fighting game players are excited about this character.
Right.
And the reason why I bring her up is I think she might have been a character that they should have released earlier in this.
Why is that?
And I think because how the game originally started, and they said they wanted to make this game, simple at first.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should have introduced a more complicated character like this earlier.
Right.
to kind of appease some of the hardcore fans because it's something for them to sink their teeth into.
So you're saying her depth was something that the initial couple of characters sorely were lacking?
Right.
Okay.
And I think, like, I personally still think Colleen is a pretty meh slot in the entire DLC. When I look at the entire, character cast, she's the least exciting thing on the screen to me.
Did you know, I'm just going to interject with this, did you know that they considered her for part of the original cast?
Colleen?
Yeah.
Really?
Because she was in the story mode?
I could understand that.
Yeah.
But she's... I still, after seeing so many things they have done and they could do with this game, I think she's a pretty mad slot.
Yeah.
I think she would have been... I think Manat would have been a much better character to put in that slot. But I think then they might... Because of how they tied Manat into Ed's background,
Right.
they would have had to release Ed. And I think they probably should have released Akuma first, like they did,
Mm-hmm.
and then released Ed, and then Manat, and then Abigail.
Right.
Maybe it's just me. They should have not released Colleen. I'm kind of at this point where I'm not interested.
You're not. That's the one blonde you don't like.
I just not into it.
You're not into blondes like that. Oh, okay.
But she's just.
You like Egyptian girls?
I guess.
Oh well.
She kind of reminds me a lot of Venom. She kind of reminds me. She's very much Viola.
She's Viola from so was it Soul Calibur 5?
Soul Calibur 5. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not even gonna front. Like they stole her from Soul Calibur 5 and said, "Well, that
Nice.
game's not doing very well. We're just gonna plug this character in and hope nobody notices." That's exactly what that character is.
She is literally Egyptian Viola.
Yeah.
Even down to her job being a
fortune teller. Like it's ridiculous. Like Capcom, you get 0 on the for me. You get sorry to interject again. You get 0 on the creative points or
Right.
like originality points, but mechanically the game, I will admit, could have used that. And she's a very defensive character. I think the game kind of needed that too. No, I agree with you that her mechanics are awesome, and the way her mechanics are awesome enough to where she's very breath of fresh air in the DLCs for this game. Very breath of fresh air.
And
Now,
I think this game has been so focused on damage.
Right.
She's a low damage character.
Right.
And she's like, you have to play this character in a very specific way. You're not going to get a lot of damage. You can potentially get a lot of damage, but it's not, you're still not going to get a lot of damage compared to a lot of these other characters.
well,
Where she's going to, like, her advantages just aren't numbers.
right.
And I think that's a very refreshing thing for this game, because a lot of this game has been if the numbers aren't there, then it doesn't fucking matter.
Right, because numbers don't lie except for 5-0. But what I will say is this. They did show, and I might have to show you this later, but they did show that they found a way to squeeze out 700 points of damage with that character off of reversal.
Oh, yeah, I believe it.
They found a way to do that. I don't know if you knew that or not. So, like, the character is meant to be played...
It's possible, but that's not going to be your general average damage with that character. That's what I mean.
No.
Like, you can squeeze that amount of damage out of a lot of characters.
You can.
Off of a reversal if you do the most optimal thing with all the resources.
Yeah.
Like
That's what they were talking about. But, I mean, even the fact that it's there just shows that Street Fighter V is still a potentially high-damaging game. But what it does show is because she got that off of a reversal, which is extremely important. The reason I mention it is because that shows her mechanics, right? Like, she has to score that reversal to get that level of damage to keep up with the rest of the cast, which is shows off her. It's telling of the way that she's meant to be played, is what I'm saying. So the reason that, so you can squeeze the damage. I didn't know if you knew that was possible or not. So I just had to interject that there, because I don't want to be completely wrong and say she can't get any damage.
Oh no, she's not. She's a low damage character. She still has a high ceiling because this game is designed to have a high ceiling.
But when my friend says she's a low damage character, before anybody else kind of like calls him on that, is she's a low damage character over if you take all her moves in scope, right? If you average out what all her moves do, and I'm talking about each normal individually,
or even your average combo. Like we're talking about when you're talking about the highest high, sure, she has she can do a whole bunch of damage if she has all her resources and they're all on a counter hit. But I'm talking about when you're like your B2B damage, her bread and butter's actually have very low damage.
Yeah.
It said her random stray hits have pretty low damage.
Yes.
So like you're gonna have this explosive, high damage right there, but you're going to have low damage until then. And there's certain characters who have like 200 to 300 bread and butter damage.
Oh yeah.
Outside of meter or anything like that, where they're like, if they just get a counter hit, they're guaranteeing basically 300 damage. So that's a high damage character, though.
Right.
So when you comparatively, she's a low damage character.
Right, but that's what we mean when we say low damage character. Like, I just wanted to get that out there because like people will argue out like potential versus averages, right? And when I go for these characters, these fighting games, we go for averages. Like, what is the average button? Like, do you have a 80, a 70, 80, 90, light, medium, and fierce punch? You know what I mean? And that's kind of standard part for the course. But if your heavy punch does like 110 damage, say like Abigail, then yeah, you're a high damage character. Like that's what we mean when we say that. Because I agree with my friend here that she's a lower damage. She's on the lower end. But she's in the vein of like a Dhalsim as far as her archetype is like a tricky character meant to be confusing and if you look at her move list, she may not have a lot of like technically like special moves, but when you throw her ball out, it stays on the screen and she doesn't have access to these long distance normals. And what makes her really difficult is you have to know the differences between that because she has a lot of minute numbers. So the technicality of this character is extremely high, but it's all in the details. This is what makes this a very technical character, is why I say that. So that's our analysis on that character. The next thing I want to talk about is Jeddah from Marvel vs. Capcom, to go back a little bit because we kind of glossed over it. But to go back, Jeddah. So
they finally got a reveal trailer.
Yes,
I know we spoke about
proper.
Yeah,
proper.
We spoke very, very lowly about that exhibition they did with Mr. Champ and the Fiend of the Combos.
Yeah.
So he got a legit trailer. Other people got legit trailers. The full roster is completely out. And I'm excited about Jeddah. I played Jeddah and Darkstalkers poorly.
He did. No, that was his character of choice. It wasn't mine. I was a Sasquatch, but
you were also doing that top A.
Oh, I was. I did. He also led to me. That also led to me playing the wrestling character in Skullgirls. That was also Beowulf. I also played him in Skullgirls because of Talbane. But yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
So like I'm interested in Jeddah, and Jeddah seems to be a very interesting, very possibly as a potentially be good character. Jeddah wasn't even very good in the Darkstalkers games. Like there were people who were really good with him, but he in of himself wasn't that great. So that's interesting. What do you feel about these combination moves? Have you seen them, Roman?
What specifically are you referring to?
Oh, well, they're showing how like a character like Firebrand can make a fire tornado.
Oh, right. Okay. So that's a really interesting mechanic. So what he's specifically referring to, so I can make sure I got this correctly and I believe, what he does is he throws like a little Firebrand. He's a returning character from Marvel 3. He throws like a little wind tornado. And then he can throw a fireball at the wind tornado, and it like works in unison and makes like another thing. Now I don't know how exclusive that is to just him, or how that works for other characters in the game, but I think it's neat. It's a neat thing to do. I mean, it's what it is for a competitive mindset. It's something you have to know. Like it's an extra layer. It's an extra layer of offense, and that's what Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is all about. It's about how thick you can layer your offense, how many different attack angles you can get all at one time, how much you can push the advantage on your opponent and basically like solitaire them out. If you it's a struggle. It's like a fighting game is kind of like some can be kind of like a back and forth game of like speed chess, right? And I think Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite and games of that nature is more like a tug of war, where it's like you're jockeying in the beginning for who's going to get the advantage, and then once you have them more to the advantage on your side, you're just trying to pull them into the mud and finish them off in one go. You're eventually going to, unload on them. So it's kind of like a tug of war in that sense. Where there's like you're opening gambits, and then eventually somebody's just going to open the floodgates, and one guy's just going to completely overwhelm the other guy. It's going to get to a point where the winners are. You can clearly see where the momentum is, and it's not even close. I think those types of moves are tricky enough where you have to put it adds layers to your attack strategy, right? It gives you multiple avenues of attack, and it's something you need to know if you're going to be competitive at any time with those characters.
I also think it was really interesting about the concept of a move like that is that Capcom has done more under the hood than we expected.
It's also very anime.
Well, it's I guess I can understand what you mean by that.
Like an anime game, like a and what I mean by that is like a Blaze Blue or a Guilty Gear or a Persona 4 style.
Variation on, like,
yeah. Like you would expect to see something like that in one of those types of games, kind of hard, type games, as opposed to a Marvel vs. Capcom game. But it's there.
That's it, and I think it's going to be. I think we're going to realize maybe a couple months later on that a lot of things we think we know about these characters are actually going to be a lot different than we expect. Because they didn't, someone found that they didn't, tell anyone about it. They didn't, make a big deal about it. They didn't really. It's not something that you see on their move list. So there's going to be these little small tweaks, and I think they've been. It's a very interesting idea from Capcom, or a very interesting thought process, where they're kind of just presenting this game and say, here's a bunch of characters. Oh, you know them? All right, sure you do. All right, sure, you know these characters, and let's see let's see how this game actually goes when you get it in your hands. Because if you notice, as opposed to something like NetherRealms,
right,
where they sit down and they have the monthly update where they go over every single aspect of every single move and they spell it out completely for you and give you the frame data. Capcom is like, we put a bunch of stuff in this game. It's up for you to figure out and discover it. And they're just kind of like, they're kind of like taking these volatile elements, shaking it up, and just handing it to you. And saying, let's see how you diffuse this.
Oh yeah, no. And it is. The problem is, and I don't want to be a negative, buzzkill on this, but unfortunately, as great as that is, and what that really does is, what I'm really most happy about this is, we didn't see the X-Men like we talked about before, but as I thought about it more, I saw the silver lining in that. Because the characters we got are the characters we're going to have to play, so it highlights different characters and things we've seen for 30 years. You know what I mean? So you're not going to see Magneto for another 10 years. Like, let's think about all the time, just Magneto as an example. We've seen Magneto on our screens for Marvel vs. Capcom, if you're fans for that. How many years? Like, well, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was out for like 8-9 years. It's played all over the place. Marvel 2, all that. So how long, yes, you want Magneto because you've seen him for all those years, but isn't change good in some way? Like, just to be base about it and be simple. Isn't that change, can't that change be welcome? Yes, it's not what you want, but you know what? You get to see new things. It's not new, but if you compare the lifespans of, like, the X-Men that we all want versus what we got, those are still relatively new in comparison, like Dante and so on. Those are still relatively new. They were only in the last game, and just so yes, you've seen them for 10 years, but you've seen Magneto for like 25, if you think about it, even more. So there you have it in that way, which that's like a silver lining.
And I'm going to say something, and a lot of people may not agree. And this is something that's been a meme amongst the fighting game community for a while, and I kind of support it. And people aren't going to be happy, but they're talking about the function me.
Yeah.
Functions. These characters are functions. The truth be told, until he had said it, until Capcom had said it, until this situation showed up, that's how people explained the game to a lot of people.
It was.
So like this, let's not pretend like they didn't, like we didn't, create that.
No.
That wasn't, a thing that was underneath a lot of people's idea. Now they're saying, well, I started playing these characters because of that. Yeah, when you first start, you start playing these characters because of that. Because that's not what makes you stay.
No. And, like, you know, yeah, you like Magneto, and you like these characters. You like, you know, Cyclops. I miss Cyclops. This is a guy I would, you know. But, like, yeah, we miss those X-Men.
I still hope we do eventually get them.
I do, too.
But the characters, I think, you know, they've done a little bit tweaks on the characters, but I think we're actually going to see a very interesting game that comes out from not having these characters.
Yeah.
For not having some of this standard stuff.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I really wanted to see Doom, you know, maybe we really did not need 10 more years of...
No, 10 more years of foot dive.
Missiles.
Yeah.
Do we really need 10 more years of
No,
hit missiles?
and 10 years is a long time, people. And we want 10 more years for this Marvel, but this is a long time. And, like, let's not... So, I mean, in a small way, it's sort of a breath of fresh air. It's sort of a breath of fresh air. I mean, I'm trying to put the most positive spin on it I can. And I know folks don't agree. But, like, I'm trying to find, like, I don't want to be the guy who always says something negative to say. So I'm trying to put, like, a positive light on it. And that's what we're trying to do here. Hell, we even saying nice things about Capcom when they do something good. We did in the last episode, we're going to do it in this one. I mean, the problem with...
and I'll give you an example of a character who I thought I would never be excited to play.
What's that?
Mega Man.
Yeah, Mega Man X.
I was never a fan of Mega Man in any of the Capcom games.
No.
I've actually taught people who had to play Marvel vs. Capcom who were playing Mega Man to stop playing Mega Man.
Yeah, stop doing it.
Like, literally just stop playing them and play a better character.
Yeah.
And now they've made me, against all of my wants and will, possibly look at picking Mega Man. I was like, damn, that cross-up after a fireball, though.
You know what?
A cross-up after a fireball, why?
You know what I think he's going to be a really good teammate with? I think he's going to be a really good teammate, him being Mega Man X. He's going to be a really good teammate with Arthur. Because Dale can just sit on the other side of the screen, just throw as much crap. Because Mega Man has a lot of projectiles and a lot of very different ones. I think you can just flood the screen.
Actually, what the team I know is going to be played, and I'm actually scared of, considering some of the left-right mix-ups that both of these characters now have, is I'm actually scared of those robot boys now.
Oh, yeah, Mega Man is Zero.
Oh, man. Oh, you're going to feel it.
Talk about the Space Gem, right?
Oh, man.
Talk about the Space Gem. And you think... And you think, like, the Space Gem, you know, with its mechanic of being able to pull the enemy towards you, it's not going to mean much. It's going to mean quite a bit when you get hit with a lightning mix-up. Now, the damage in that game scales extremely heavily, but the lightning loop stuff, it's in there. Like, don't, just because you haven't seen it yet on the internets.
You're going to see those Buster Castle.
Oh, yeah. You're going to see Buster Cancel and the Buster Cancel. Now, I don't just think that, you know, and this is another thing to the game. As evil as that team could be with the Space Gem and putting you in the box for the 50-50, imagine those guys being even more evasive with the Time Gem and getting that custom combo. Oh, my God, you're going to see loop.
Actually, the one I'm the most scared to see them with is the Reality Gem.
Oh, yeah, where they get to throw all the little tractor balls at you?
It's the tractor balls, but like the Infinity Storm.
Oh, my goodness.
So now you got the elements and the left-right mix-ups on top of the beam from the sky. And oh, man.
The choices, like, I'm going to use the cliche old-school cartoon thing. The choices are yours. Like, you can literally, like, and that's actually what makes that team so good. The fact that you can pick damn near any one of the gems and, like, just do good. So they're good regardless of what gem you pick. It literally just comes down to the point of, like, you make the gem good. The characters are already, like, because those guys team up so good, too. And my favorite part about X, to make mention of him, is that he's not Zero. He's not even close. Like, what he does and what Zero does is different enough for me in functionality that it makes those guys really good. Now, my favorite part, the thing you know about functions, right, and how you explained, the problem with the function thing, it was simply a timing thing. That was a very ill-fated response to what was being asked of Combo Fiend at the time. Now, the problem is, he was right. He wasn't wrong what he said. It's just not what anybody wanted to hear. Mm-hmm. So it was the choice of his words that was the problem versus the truth of his words. So the man was right. It's just we were looking for a completely different response, us being the FGC. We were looking for a very different response from that man at that particular time. And so, yes, and the reason...
Put like this. In that time, Combo Fiend was not the community managers we wanted but he was the community manager we deserve.
We deserve. And, you know, and I've sung his praises. I've sung nothing but that man's praises. Because I'd rather have him than a whole bunch of other people. You know what? No offense. But I'd rather have him than Seth Killian any day of the week. And that's not downplaying Seth Killian. I just think Combo Fiend is just better. He's better because he was a tournament competitive player in a time where some of these things that he's dealing with now were a little more applicable. And Seth was a little bit more old school, a little more David Serlin, you know, a little more, you know, he had that mentality in him. And that's not wrong. But for the tasks he was given at the time, they really needed someone just a tad more vibrant. He's a great, like, boardroom meeting kind of guy, Seth Killian. Like, if he was my accountant, yeah, do my taxes. I think I could have a conversation with him about taxes and numbers. And I think he's a great corporate guy.
Like, I think he's very good at presenting the game.
Yeah.
He's not very good at making you hyped about the game.
No.
Like, Combo Fiend is going to make you sit down and say, man, I want to play this game.
And not only that, he's good enough at both of those things, presenting the game and making you hype, that makes him the slight jump over like a Seth Killian. And the only reason I use Seth Killian is because he was the last guy sort of in Combo Fiend's, like, wheelhouse of what he was doing. I guess he's the replacement for that guy. But I do think it was a step in the right direction. I mean, Seth's not a bad guy, but he left Capcom because he wanted to leave Capcom, as far as I know. I don't believe he was pushed out, because I think they would have found something for him had he wanted to stay. But I don't think he wanted to stay. And to be honest, I wouldn't want to have to stay after what happened with Street Fighter Cross Tekken either.
I think Seth Killian, as a vaulted position within the Capcom mythos, he did a very good thing, and he was the right man for the right time at the right position. But then after that position faded, or after that time faded, it was clear that he was no longer the right person for it. And I think he got a bad draw with that Street Fighter versus Tekken thing.
Yeah, he got a bad rap.
That was not his dream.
No.
He actually achieved his dream already. And the problem is he had a high-level position after he achieved his dream, and there was very little left for him to do at that point besides continue on his position and continue on just supporting what was already being developed.
Yep.
But he originally got into the position because he was instrumental behind the development. I don't think he was instrumental behind the development of that last game, so thus it was harder for him to, shield for the game. It was harder for him to be the guy to excite people and get people together, because some people have a hard time selling what they don't believe in. And if you go back and watch these, interviews and you watch these, things, I don't think he believed in all the things that Capcom was doing. And he had a reason not to, because Capcom was doing some really, Skinner box as, fraudulent things, which is the reason why they have this, reputation they have now. Remember, all this stuff came back from Capcom.
Yep, Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Yep. That's the. I hate to say it, but that was the peak. Like, because in fighting games and in entertainment and everything else, because that's what video games are, folks. They're an entertainment and sort of a way to make money these days. You have peaks and valleys of, good things. And we're in a really good place now with the FGC. And I'm going to say it one last time. Street Fighter 5, people, that's the reason we're in this good place. But it wasn't so much, not only that Seth couldn't, believe in what he had no reason. He had now, and it wasn't, and I don't think he even had a say in a lot of that stuff. I think these things were just happening, and he was presented. And, he's not Ron Ronco. He couldn't sit there and, tell you that the knives are going to cut today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, when he couldn't even sharpen those damn things for himself. I don't think he liked the ideas that were being presented in that game as much as anyone else. I think he felt a lot of the same way you and me probably felt about that. And yes, it is, while it's hard to sell something you don't believe in, it's even harder to sell something you can't get feedback in. I don't even think they were, explaining to him as well as they could have. I think his, they really hung him out to dry with that. And I feel incredibly sorry for him because of that. He did not deserve that. For all those years of service he did not deserve that. He really didn't. He got a very terrible send-off. And he still gets a lot of... It was so bad that in the game Dive Kick, not only is he the last boss, but he is a joke. And I know he's meant to be a joke, but man, the things they say in that game for him. I mean, they burn him for getting all the various iterations of Street Fighter 4. They burn him for the gems. They burn him for all kinds of stuff. Even the way he plays the game with his hands crisscrossed. I mean, and while all those things are somewhat true and like the comedy is based somewhat on the real events, a lot of that wouldn't have been true if he wasn't hung out to dry by Capcom. Mm-hmm. And it's sad that that's just the way it is. I mean, so we here at Bread and Butter are super excited as far as I go, and I believe my compatriots can, for the future of at least one thing, and that's the fact that not only is esports the way the FGC needs to be, we think Capcom might be the vehicle that's going to get us there, and it's going to be the vehicle that stays us there. Can we agree on that?
No.
No, you don't think Capcom? I don't think
it's Capcom. I think Capcom at this point is not the vehicle that's going to get us there. I think Capcom is the vehicle that has gotten us there now.
You don't think Street Fighter V is going to maintain its position? No.
It may. Though it may.
You don't think MVCI is going to be the next step in a really good esports movement that's going to put more people back on esports?
Put it like this. I'm not going to put it all on Capcom's shoulders.
No, I'm not going. I understand that.
These other games are going and are doing impressive and good things. So I'm not going to put it all on their shoulders.
Okay, would you say this, that they lead the way? They're going to lead the way?
I think yes.
That's okay, because that's basically what I was getting at. That I think they're the ones that's going to lead the way. Capcom is the ones that's going to lead the way, and everyone else is going to follow. And and they're going to lead the way because of what they've done in the past. And I think, MVCI being what looks to be a better game than we may have thought based on first impressions is going to keep them where they're at, is my opinion. But they're going to lead the way into the future, in the esports future. And do you agree with me that if it wasn't for Street Fighter V, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be what it is? If a lot of the, on the back of Street Fighter didn't get, over the hump when it comes to things like, getting esports into the next phase?
No.
No, you don't think Street Fighter V was the reason that...
No, I think this is... most of this stuff is still residuals from Street 4.
Okay.
I think Street Fighter V was a nicer, prettier game to show on the screen. But I think a lot of this stuff was residuals and, production from Street Fighter 4 that are just now coming to fruition.
Well, would you agree with this? If Street Fighter V dies, the FGC is going to be dealt a disturbingly high blow.
Oh, yeah. It's not going to be good for the FGC if the game dies. That's
right. If Street Fighter V dies, I think personally it would be catastrophic for the FGC. I mean, it's the headliner at EVO. Like I said again, it's the one that's on TV. Yes, Smash got to Disney, but ESPN is the name that pays. I mean, that's also in the Disney, thing. And they also, I believe, didn't they show Street Fighter on Disney as well? No, they just showed Smash. Well,
here's the thing though, they've put a lot of money behind the Street Fighter. Now there's other games that can replace it. Truthfully told, Injustice could replace it.
Not with that, and I'm gonna segue what you just said on something. Not with that reveal of that. What's that boy's name? I forget.
Black Manta.
Black Manta. Yeah, the black man under the sea.
Yes, they could.
The black old man in the sea. Not with him, because I believe we had a discussion, and we're gonna discuss it here. Does he not look like some MKX?
Okay, he looks like leftover parts from Predator.
Yeah.
Looks like leftover parts from Predator.
And why is the coolest thing about that character from the preview his wind pose? That cool guys do not look at explosions.
Because they know how to sell a good wind pose. Actually, this is something that, I had never spoke about before. But
I don't think all their wind poses are good.
I actually think most of their wind poses are terrible.
I was gonna say that Red Hood wind pose is pretty lame.
I actually really don't like the Superman one. I'm kind of okay with the Batman one. I like the Supergirl one, but I think they're very hit and miss with these wind poses.
Yeah.
And I think his is the coolest. Obviously, I'm not sure why they didn't do more stuff like that. But I'm looking at the mechanics of the character, and he just seems to be a bunch of a hodgepodge of a bunch of things put together.
Yeah,
Like
he really does.
He has like the Kryptonia eye laser.
Well, he had to have that. He had to have that. That's an in-comic book thing.
Right, but it was exactly kind of like theirs. Like the
okay, it was
suits
very similar to like what they do. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was very Supergirl.
And then you have the flight mode. Like a lot of these characters are starting to become, functions.
Oh,
like
that's a bad word,
He's
Joe.
very much a function character. I can't. I'm not sure how many people are happy or excited.
Is it function over form?
Oh, it's most definitely formal.
It's function over form, where he's more of a function than a form.
No, I believe it's for most of the cast it was intended to be form over, but these characters end up being functions over.
Yeah, like
and he's very much functional.
And what I mean by that, to say that, is form is like the art and the outside of early appearance. Function is like the raw mechanics, right? So you got two parts to a character. You have looks, which is the form, and you have function, which is what they do. So, and the reason I asked if he was function over form was exactly that. Is he just a bunch of mechanical parts with just the skin? And could he have been anybody? I mean, with his, could he have been any number of characters with, what he does? Yeah, and it's super, the one thing I don't like about him is he has that, grappling gun that's very Scorpion. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe he had something similar to that. I could see him with, a harpoon gun. But I was disappointed in the fact that his super, he pulls out a trident. I was like, is that necessary? No. Come on, he can't do something cooler than that. I mean, and the big old, and what got me, though, the most about the character, what I didn't understand, people, I got a lot of complaints, just seeing online and talking to people about the helmet. His big old helmet. And I'm like, have you never seen this character before?
He would have not been recognizable as Black Manta
without it. If you take off...
It's his defining feature.
And a bit of trivia about that character, if you take off the helmet, that's a black guy. That's why he's Black Manta. But, so to say there's no black supervillains is bullshit. But I digress. Without that helmet, he's not Black Manta. What do you want? That's it. That's it, man. Screw off with you people who are complaining about how he looks, because he looks how he's supposed to look. Mm-hmm. And the jetpack thing kind of bothers me, because what is he doing flying around? He's an underwater guy.
He just looks like a bunch of mechanics put together.
Yeah, he looks a little bit like Zod from the first game. He looks like a lot of things from MKX in the first Injustice.
He looks a lot, he looks kind of like, a more airborne version of, Deathstroke.
Yeah, a little bit Deathstroke.
He's just, another guy with guns and, a flight mode.
And some swordy kind of slicers. And, but one thing I will say that looked really cool, and I'm a big fan of, but I gotta see some mechanics before I really give a damn, is Hellboy. They talked about Hellboy.
Oh, yeah.
DLCs, Hellboy.
And people may be poo-pooing on it, and I heard very few people talk about it, but I'm happy to see Raiden. Yes, give me the Thunder God.
Oh, yeah,
yes, Shock 'em all.
Yeah, he does.
I said, also, I can't wait.
He don't get enough talk.
I said, also, I can't wait to hear his banter with Black Adam.
Oh, yeah.
Because, those
I'm the real Thunder God, right? But those nipples, though. And the reason I talk about those nipples, though, is Raiden ain't wearing a shirt.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
And because when you're in the Injustice game, you get more of the comic book superhero treatment, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Yeah. Also, I want to see how they differentiate Raiden from, other than the classic Raiden moves, which is the teleport, the fly, and the thunder zap, and the grab. How are they going to differentiate him from Black Adam? How are they going to really make him not just be a Black Adam, substitute?
You know what I think is, and maybe it's just my liking for this style when he had it in the last Mortal Kombat game, but I hope his thing ends up being the proximity shocks, where you put one point on the screen, you put another point, and when you do, you get the line between them.
Yeah. That could easily be. I could easily see that being his little
trait.
his trait.
Yep.
I could easily see the little beacons. I could easily see that being his thing. But I was actually surprised about the reception for Hellboy. As much as I do like Raiden, I was surprised about the reception for Hellboy, because I didn't think it was many people knew about that character. I mean, the movies helped, I like both of those movies.
Also, I would say that character looks great.
Oh yeah, like
He
yeah.
looks like he fell right out the comic.
Oh
and
yeah.
like he's super blocky and kind of cartoony and stuff like that. But like
that's how he looks.
That's how he's supposed to
look.
And like he looks like he came out of a comic.
He's very Sin City style
and
comic.
Says, "Hey,
Frank Miller
let's
inspired.
Fisticuffs."
Yeah, he's got the big old head. Yeah, he also looks like he fell right out that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like he gets it because the Hellboy doesn't always look like that in every comic book, but he fell right out of that movie, and that's the one. And that's the Hellboy I think most people recognize.
Yep.
I really hope. Now we talk about a lot of characters with guns, but see now that's the character who's gotta have a gun.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see the baby. I want to see the big old blast. I want to see him do the big old shot. I mean, and I want to see baby. You know what I'm saying? That was the name of that gun. It was the baby. No, I want to see. I want to see somebody. I wanted to make mention like, don't wake the baby, like, because that was what he would say when he'd shoot people. Don't wake the baby. No, I want to see that. I do. And Raiden, you know, the problem I have with Raiden is, and I like the character Raiden, so I like the classic Mortal Kombat stuff, is you kind of know what he's gonna have, and you kind of don't, and you kind of hope he has some of the stuff that makes him what he is.
Obviously.
But like
if he doesn't have the teleport, I'll be very upset.
Or if he doesn't have the, like, I hope he has his, and it's a chance he won't, the command grab zap where he goes, you know, and he puts both hands out. Like, I hope he has that. I really hope they don't get rid of his flight sound effect. That's a classic at this point. You know, the sound effect. He's got to have that. He's got to have, you know, a variety of things, you know. But the problem is he's got to. And it won't be right if he doesn't. And I think what I would really like in just a game in general, in a fighting game, is a lot of characters where you don't have to have certain moves. You know what I mean? Like it could, like, a variety isn't necessarily like Sub-Zero, right? Sub-Zero has two basic moves. He has his slide and his freeze, right? That's all he's ever had. So you can expand on him, right? But how can you really expand on Raiden? I know the beacons are a good way to do it, but like, that's the problem with classic characters. As much as I love them, it's kind of, you know what you're going to get. You're not going to get a whole lot outside of that box. And like a character like Hellboy is, we don't know what he's going to do. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of cool. That's also a thing with Black Manta, right? That was neat. Like, we don't know what he's going to do.
Actually, truth be told, as much as I poo-pooed on Black Manta about him looking like, you know, a bunch of scrapped Predator parts, it's still cooler than I thought he was going to be. So, good job, you know, for making a cool looking character.
Yeah.
I just, you know, immediately when I saw him, I just thought of the Predator.
Yeah. Because it was a lot of wash, rinse, and repeat. I mean, and you know those Injustice heads are going to totally, like, 100%. They're going to go for it. They're going to just 100%. So, we talked about, you know, Injustice. We've touched on Street Fighter. We've touched on, you know, Marvel. And the reason we talk so much about Marvel today, people, is
it's soon coming.
It's coming soon. It's coming soon. The 19th. And look out for that unboxing video. That's going to be a very big event around here in Bread and Butter Land. That's going to be our next big event. We will have gameplay live streamed. We will have, you know, gameplay of us playing the game. I'm still Steve. I'm still hyped for Steve. I can't wait. It's going to be Steve, and I'm going to probably play every other character in the game plus Steve. It's the one character. That's the problem I have. You don't get a lot of variety out of me when I first play a fighting game. When I first start, I want to play it like 10 times to get an idea. So you're probably going to see a lot of Ryu and Steve. Actually, I'm thinking actually with Ryu in that game, I'm going to play him for a long time. So I really think that character is kind of a little bit slept on. But, like, so there's that. So look out for that. So I believe, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this all up. For Joe from the fourth floor, I am Mr. B&B V8. We're going to hit you with all the tags. So please check us out on Twitter at MTGWWEFAN for my personal Twitter. Joe, did you finally get a Twitter?
No.
No, he didn't ever get a Twitter. Please hit us up at our fan email. I believe it's H and the number 8. Yes, capital H, the number 8 at Cobb, COBB Studios at gmail.com. Please email us with any questions or thoughts or suggestions you may have, or just hate for things that I've said, Joe said, that we've said, we've agreed on, disagree.
The things we didn't say.
Yeah, didn't say, like, please give us topics of discussion. We would appreciate that. And for the stream, it is twitch.tv/bread, one word, capital N, butter, the whole word. Please, MKE, capital MKE for where we're from. Please see us there. We're going to do playthroughs of different video games. I know Gourmand is very excited about his World of Final Fantasy playthrough that I've been commentating on, and we've been playing through. Very excited for that. We have we actually have over 20 hours of live gameplay coming up on 20, if not close to, of live gameplay. Also, all of the podcasts eventually go there. Please check out all our other affiliates for the podcast. But you will, if I have anything to do with it, you will always eventually, the podcast will find its way onto YouTube, if I can help it. So that's the plans. Thank you, and bang, good night.